guys, it's Shara from Woodshop Diaries, and today I want to share with you how to make a simple wooden pet keepsake box in 2 different sizes. Now, if you have pets, you know that they're also part of the family, and when you lose one, it's really nice sometimes to keep a few special items as keepsakes to remember them by. But also, if you've ever considered pet cremation, these would also make really nice, simple wooden urns as well. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you how to build these simple wooden boxes with just some basic tools and some basic lumber. Once the box is completed, you can leave as is, but our video sponsor, Green Meadow Memorials, has created several different personalized plates that you can add if you wish. You'll see more about this at the end of the video. Now for the how-to. For a project like this, I recommend using a good quality hardwood if possible. In this video, I use walnut for the small size and oak for the larger size. I've linked a detailed tutorial in the description below with dimensions, but for pet urns, there are usually various sizing options. The small one shown here works for most pets up to about 50 pounds, and the larger one works for most pets up to about 120 pounds. The construction process is the same for both, but the sizing is just a little different. For the small urn, the sides are made from standard 1x4s and the top is cut from a 1x6. For the larger urn, the sides and the top are both made from standard 1x6 boards. For the bottom of both of these boxes, I just used a small piece of 1/4 inch plywood screwed in place. I'll show how to build the smaller version first in this video. So to get started, I began cutting the pieces for the sides of the box. I cut these on a miter saw and the corners are mitered here, so I set my saw up to cut a 45-degree angle before making any of the cuts. I trimmed the end off of the board and then I cut a 5-inch long piece. I used a square to help me mark these cuts. I kept the saw at 45 degrees and cut another 5-inch long piece and then 2 6-inch pieces to make all 4 sides of the box. Since the bottom of the urn is inset into the box, I needed to route a small rabbet along the bottom edge of these pieces. I used a 1/4 inch rabbeting bit in my router to cut a 1/4 inch deep by a 1/4 inch wide rabbet along the bottom edge of all 4 pieces, just like shown here in this video. If you have a table saw, you could also cut these on a table saw if you'd rather. And don't worry, if you don't have a router, you could simply just screw the plywood piece onto the bottom of the box once you're finished. Before assembling, I gave the pieces a quick sanding. And if you don't have a sander, hand sanding with about 220 grit paper works fine here. Then I laid the pieces out on the workbench, alternating the long and the short sides of the box. I applied painter's tape along the inside edges to help catch the glue squeeze out, and then I flipped the pieces over and taped the outside joints. I applied wood glue liberally along the corners, folded the box together, and taped the last corner. To keep the glue squeeze out from curing and sticking the box to the workbench, I just set it up on a piece of scrap wood so that it could drip off until it was dry. Now the larger version is done exactly the same way here, only the pieces are cut from 1x6 boards and the lengths of the sides are 5 inches and 8 1/4 inches. If your miter saw isn't big enough to make these cuts this way, you can turn the miter angle back to 0, set your bevel angle to 45 degrees, and make these cuts with the board lying flat instead. After I cut 2 5-inch and 2 8 1/4 inch pieces, I routed, sanded, taped, and glued them up the same way. By the way, if you have a ratchet strap, this works really well as a clamp if you need a little extra pressure on the corners to get them tight. After the glue was dry, I removed the tape and chiseled out any large glue chunks from the rabbeted corners. If there are any gaps on the corner joints, you can also putty these with regular wood putty or a mixture of sawdust and wood glue. To add the top, I cut a 1x6 the length of the box, then marked where to trim the edge so that it would fit flush. I trimmed off this little piece on the miter saw and then glued the top in place. You can use clamps, a heavy object, or even painter's tape to hold the piece in place until it's dry. This process is the same no matter which size you are making. After the glue was good and dry on the top, I used a flush trim bit on the router to clean up the edges around the top. Now, if you don't have a flush trim bit or you don't have a router, you can simply sand these edges nice and flush as well. Then I used a chamfer bit in my router to add a decorative edge detail along the top. This is optional. If you don't have a router, this isn't a necessary step. It just adds a little decorative edge. And if you wanted a different decorative edge, you could also use a roundover or Roman OG or just any decorative bit that you prefer. The final step is adding the bottom panel. For the bottom, I just cut some small pieces of 1/4 inch plywood to fit into the bottom of each urn. The surface is pretty small, so it's best to use some small screws here. I pre-drilled holes and attached with small 5/8 inch long wood screws on each side of the box. If you're worried about dust, you could also apply some thin weather stripping along the edges of the plywood before screwing it in to give it a little bit better seal. You can finish these however you wish, paint, stain, or poly. I just applied some furniture wax to protect and seal the natural wood. At this point, the urns are complete, but if you wanted to add a personalized touch, Green Meadow Memorials offers these customizable plates that you can add to the side or the top or wherever you want. They've got several styles, designs, and sizes that will fit either of these size urns. I've linked these in the description below if you'd like to see all of the options that they offer. Some of these simply peel and stick on, and others attach with tiny finish nails that are included with the plate. Making a nice custom pet urn or keepsake box doesn't have to be complicated or difficult. With a few basic tools, you can build a simple pet urn made with hands that love them. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you'd like more information on this project, the details and dimensions are listed in the written tutorial linked in the description.